We are here with Lori Serna of Wife of the Party. We are so excited because our topic of the day, and we'll get into this a little bit more, is all around collaborations. And Lori was very humble, and she talked about how she helps other people collaborate, and bring other brands' dreams to life. But you, Lori, are a dream collaboration for us. So you actually help, I think, a lot more people than you know. And I think you can see by the folks that are joining the live and that have followed you everywhere that you are just, of course, a wonderful source of not only inspiration, but also, you are killing it in the event game. So with that, we're going to go over a few things today. We're going to ask you about, how you got started, a little bit of the background, and then we're going to, talk through a little bit about what's going on right now and how you are doing and your family's doing, and then talk about, collaborations. And the idea really is, with everything that we're doing with this program, is that we're trying to help all of us to really use this downtime to take stock of our businesses, to try to figure out how we can spend that time wisely, learn from each other, and dive into some topics that we don't always get the time to strategize on and focus on when things are going full speed. So we'll jump into all of that as we go along. But first, let's hear a little bit about you. How did you get started? Tell us about
my name is Lori and Wife of the Party, and a little bit about my business name. It was actually my husband that came up with it. We had this business for several years, and I didn't really align it with an identification. And when there was a project that I was very interested in, they asked me for my website and the name of my company, but I was just doing it as Lori Serna. So we had a little disagreement about which direction I should take it, and he came up with that name, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And at the time, a couple people actually made fun of me about it and said that people wouldn't take me seriously. And I was really torn about what direction to take the branding, right? Because there's so many options out there if you're looking at what everybody else is doing. But we just stuck it out, and to date, it's been one of the things that identifies me from other brands, immediately. And I think that it goes to show you that if you follow your gut with that initial jump when you're starting your business, or even if you're redefining your business or whatever it is at any time, stick with it, because as long as you feel good about it, then you're always going to be one step ahead of yourself with the excitement and anticipation. We started when my husband was in a nightclub business because I used to really enjoy celebrating people. So we'd be selling tables and packages, and I would enhance it with a birthday cake and decorations and all these different things. And I used my network back then, just like I do now. We knew a lot of people. So when we were opening a new nightclub, I invited people in. I offered to go the extra mile. And it just really built from there. It was something that almost seemed like it happened overnight. It took several years. And I finally quit my day job to do it full time 6 years ago. So.
Wow.
That's so awesome. Yeah, we absolutely love it. Part of why we are having the 7-day challenge to optimize your event business is because so many businesses and our colleagues and friends in the industry are really impacted by COVID-19, the coronavirus. It's just really taken an impact to our industry. But also, it's really kind of like an opportunity for us to show how resilient we are when we are facing a challenge. So we're hoping that you could share with us possibly a challenge that you've had in the past and how you overcame it.
I think what everyone identifies as a challenge is a little bit different, right? So sometimes some challenges are more long-term than others. For me, the majority of my challenges that I would identify with for something like this would be more short-term challenges, meaning things that really impacted us the day of something when we had an obligation to fulfill and things went wrong. And I've had a lot of those because we're in an industry where things do go wrong, and especially for event production, people pay you to fix it. They're not paying you to make it look pretty, So ultimately, they can bring me a design and ask me to enhance it. But on that event day, if something goes wrong, what they're really paying me for is that network, right? Okay, the flowers didn't show up. We need to find a florist. If the tables didn't show up, we've got to find those tables. A couple years ago, I think it was 3, in fact, we did a collaboration for our brand. It was Boohoo and Zendaya, and we did it on the rooftop of the Dream Hotel. And it was this dream event. It was supposed to be really amazing. Our first time working with the brand, and it decided to rain. And I'm not kidding you. I'll never forget that day because I thought that we would be ruined. I'm not even kidding. Talking about it makes me a little shaky because I had, even though I'm pretty faithful in myself and I'm creative and innovative and I know people, there was almost nothing anybody could do to help us because the party was designed on a rooftop that hadn't been permitted for roof tenting. And everything that you can imagine went wrong. And I mean, there was over 40 of us there working that day. We had to bring up steel poles over the side of the building. I mean, I broke a couple times. And I think that there was 2 things. One was honestly luck because the weather cleared up right before it started. 2 was resources. A lot of people, town and country, came through for me. We were able to tent it. The city allowed us to do it. Like everything just happened very last minute. But it taught me a lot about grace and just about kind of deciding if I wanted to continue being in that business because that amount of stress was so terrible that I think it could have scarred me and maybe made me give up. When I think about COVID, it reminds me of that because when this first actually happened, there's really not much that we can do for my company right now. We were supposed to be in Atlanta last week. We were supposed to be at Coachella for 4 different brands. And here we were halfway through the work, tickets booked, and I was absolutely broken. I was hysterical because not so much about the work, but what am I going to do with this money that we can't get back? What am I going to do about taking care of my team? What am I going to do if that work doesn't come later? So I moved past that other one by simply just toughening up and, you know, having to further identify ways to problem solve in the future, ways to identify weather differently, ways to learn from it. And on this one, I haven't learned yet because I have some really good days and then some really crappy days. And yesterday was one of the bad ones. And I feel like it's okay to just get some rest and take some time off. And you don't have to push yourself to necessarily be creative when times are sad like this either, as long as you just kind of navigate your own way through for what works for you.
I think that, I mean, thank you for sharing that. And I think that, you know, you just took us on the roller coaster of being in the event space, right? And part
amazing,
of that.
Horrible, amazing, horrible.
But you're right. There's a lot of resilience built in. And it's for the love of the people, the love of our vendors, the love of just making an experience amazing. And so I think that does kind of put us in that perspective of, you know, we've been through a lot of things before, and we will get through this, especially together. But I think that's part of your spirit that's really amazing because you share so much more than probably anybody else, I would say, in this space. I mean, a lot of people do, but I mean, I feel like we all know your family and we know, you know, we celebrate when things go really well. And then, you know, we were able to connect with you when things are tough.
Important to talk about those things, I think, because it's the reality of it all. It's not just all really pretty pictures. It's the hard work and the people that help you get there, the rewards, and then how you take away what you learn for the next one.
And how do you think your sharing has contributed to building your network, building, you know, people that either want to work with you or not? But how do you think, you know, the fact that you are such a sharer on social media has contributed to the business that you have today?
I'm actually excited that you asked me that question because it's one of the biggest things that people ask me, and I don't normally do these talks, so I talk to them one-on-one, and it's something I would love to share with anybody that's looking to build their brand. The answer is consistent. Well, there's 2 parts. I am where I am because of consistency, not because I was the best, not because I necessarily knew what I was doing. I don't know if many of you know that my husband and I owned a bakery, and when I decided I wanted to bake cakes, I had no idea how to bake a cake. No clue. I saw something on TV. I was like, we're baking cakes. And he I won't say what he said to me, but yet he was wonderful enough to try to do it with me. And we ended up on Cupcake Wars, you know? But I tried it and I went after it and I was going to be good at it. And if I was going to do it, I was going to really put my all into it 100%. I would share. So when we got our first big celebrity cake, I was posting back then on MySpace and I would do it every single day. And it wasn't to the point where I was annoying or in your face, but when you look back later at brands that looked at our company versus others, they were like, wow, you've got 3 years of posts. You've got 3 years of activity. It shows that you're constantly committed and working it towards something. Sometimes when I had Frankie on Instagram, the beginning of that was of my baby, but then it would show the work and then it would kind of just gradually progress into whatever it is that I was passionate about and able to do at the time. And I think that's what a lot of people look for is consistency. People look for that in a wedding planner. They look for that when they choose you to work on a brand. They look for it even if you're doing a charity gala for them. And I think that's helped me to really develop long-term friendships with people on social media that know me as a mom and know me as a businesswoman and also know me as a partner, because the girls that work with me, the guys that work with me, they're my partners. They're very important every single day. And showing them is a really big, important piece to me for my success. So I think to answer your question, it's a combination of all of that. But the biggest thing, consistency, has helped me to get to where we are.
And I think that you're very generous about sharing too. So it's, we get to see you, but I think that it feels like you take a lot of joy in sharing others and amplifying others, which kind of gets into our chat about collaborations and how that has worked. So what are some of the most memorable collaborations that you can think of, whether you helped to put them on or you were asked to be a part of?
Well, my first immediate, I'm going to say, was the Key campaign for Chrissy Teigen. I mean, it's Chrissy Teigen. Who doesn't get excited about that? And to add to that, I think that, for us, a lot of the stuff and the work that we take on, we do turn some work away. And that's not because I think things have to fit. It's kind of like dating, right? And you need to be excited about what you're doing. And we don't always get that choice. There's some stuff that we do that, I probably don't love as much as other things, but it's Chrissy Teigen, so of course they're excited. And with a wonderful campaign, she does a lot of good for people. And so she was a feel-good kind of person, and getting to meet her was one of the best branding opportunities that we've had. But Pretty Little Thing is our largest client, and they do collaborations with influencers, collaborations with makeup brands, collaborations for Coachella. And so honestly, I can say everything that I've done with them has been a lot of fun, because we've learned from all of them, from small intimate dinners, from small networking dinners to put people in an industry together that's sponsored by a brand. It's been all so different as we maintain ways to try to be innovative and consistent, but still innovative with how to do it differently. So I would say also one of the things that I enjoy is anytime that we collaborate with somebody to help them for any philanthropical efforts. So when we do charity, we donate a lot of time, we donate a lot of school dances. I don't talk about that as much publicly, but anytime that we can collaborate there, we've had brands like BH Cosmetics that come on. I've reached out to them and they will donate makeup. We've had a lot of brands that we've worked with have donated to other good things that we do that we kind of keep offline. It's all just really feel good stuff. So I would say there's a lot, but those are definitely some of my top.
And I know you do collaborations with clients and other corporations. When you are collaborating, what are like the elements that you look for in a collaboration? You said it's like a relationship. Can you expand on some of the things you look for?
I think that who you're working with on the other end, you really need to have an understanding. And it doesn't always mean that you have to align. Some of the best collaborations come from two people with different ideas, right? And so getting to bounce ideas off of that, but making sure that you're listening to one another. And it's always important for me that the end goal is something that still stays in line with us, celebrating people, however that may be, making sure that things are just really colorful and bright and happy, and that there's an end result. So I don't think we can always guarantee that something's associated with a charity. You see a lot of that, and it's really hard for people sometimes to decipher if it is legitimate or not. But you look at a lot of the makeup collaborations, it's fun, everybody can enjoy it. There's somebody for every age. So demographics are important to me when we choose those kinds of things, because our age range can be from 16 to 50 for our type of audience. So I think that anything that's relatable is always the first thing for me. And it can be relatable because of being a woman, because of being a mother, because of being a business person, because it's something that I would choose to go out and buy for a gift, or any of those types of things. Is it personally relatable to me? If so, then I'm on board with it, and let's figure out how we can enhance that.
Collaborations are not always paid. There's other creative ways to make it a win-win for the two parties, correct?
Sure. I think a big part of that is social sharing and making sure that the responsibility is there, that you're working as a team and not one more than the other. If you really want to get the most out of it, there has to be a level of commitment there, unless you decide in the beginning what your parameters are. Like, hey, you know what? I'm totally on board. This is a perfect example with Patty. we had tried to talk with you, a few months back and to make some things happen. And unfortunately, my schedule was really overwhelming and I didn't quite know how to express that because I really wanted to help out and I wanted to be involved, but it probably looked like it wasn't important to me. And if it's important to me, then I need to make the time to make it important, or say, hey, I could do it, but I can only commit 20%, or you can take the role, take all this and I'll do this part. But we have to decide what that relationship is going to look like. And then each person needs to fulfill that. I think also making sure that you're introducing people to new people that you don't already know. You don't want to be in that same circle. It's like, hey, come on over here and meet my friends and let me show you what these people do. And how can we continue to help you to grow from this collaboration by meeting new people that you can also collaborate with further down the line.
That's great. And no, just to say that, so part of the experience is, and that we're trying to share with folks, is that collaborations can look different from maybe who you normally work with, or could be somebody that is aspirational that you would love to work with, like a dream partner, and trying to figure out how there is a crossover or a win-win is important as you get ready for the pitch. As you get ready for the pitch. And so when you mentioned that, for us in working with you, it was, when we pitched to you to partner together on this, it was, how can we help businesses, focus on things that they can do during this time to, make the most of it. And you were super on board because you're passionate about that. So trying to find some alignment where it's an easy yes for that partner, whether it's, something that's for profit or something that's more of a different type of collaboration, is really important. And then just go for it, right?
And I also think, not being afraid of it. So if you want to try something, just ask. I mean, I never stop asking. I still ask all the time. I'm in front of people. I'm asking questions. I'm talking about it. It doesn't ever hurt to try it, because worst case, they're going to say no. And what I have learned just from even watching the industry as a whole is no doesn't mean no necessarily because it's you. Timing is everything, and a lot of things for anybody, whether it's like if it's a styled shoot and people want to collaborate for that, maybe it depends on if that person has budget at the time. Maybe it depends on if they're committed because they have more weddings that month. Maybe it's because that photographer has too much time to, they don't have enough time because they have editing to do. Sometimes it's just really the timing. So the question, instead of, oh, I'm sorry you can't do it, could be, is there a better time? Is it okay if I reach back out to you in 3 months? Do you think that we could revisit this to maybe find a different way of success? And then maybe reworking how you get that person into the story. So maybe next time it's, you know what, Patty, I'm sorry, I don't think that this part would work, but I think this is great to have you. Would you be interested in doing it? And just kind of reevaluate how you're wiggling your way in, because a lot of people appreciate that. Am I overstepping if I ask this one vendor, if this other person uses them? And it's really hard to kind of navigate your way without feeling like you're stepping on toes sometimes. So I think approach is everything. And if you're not sure or you're feeling nervous, write it down, reword it. I'm really good on email. I'll think things through again before I send it, and one of the things that, back to my comment about Patty, just because it's so relatable, is follow up. Don't be scared to follow up, because it's much better to hear a no than to have a what if or wonder. And you have to work through that if you're going to want to do this. You're going to have to get through the fear. But if you just keep at it and keep at it and keep at it, not necessarily that same project, but just keep at overcoming whatever it is that makes you nervous about it, sooner or later, you're going to be okay with it, because you have to, or you're not going to develop new relationships. And at the vendor level, at the brand level, at any company, at a wedding venue, people are always going to change. The staff is forever going to be new. So you've got to stay on that radar, and you have to be comfortable being a salesman, because you're your best salesman.
So many people are impacted by coronavirus, COVID-19. We're starting to see different trends on how people are celebrating. Have you seen additional trends, maybe not on the celebrations, but possibly on the approach and how we're collaborating, like more nonprofits, etc.?
It's interesting that you say that about the nonprofits. One of the biggest galas that we do every year for the cancer support community in Pasadena, we are actually taking to a digital gala. We just found that out this week. And so we're working out some of that on the back end. I don't know what that looks like, but that might be something fun for me to kind of circle back to you with and let you know what we come up with. We were just tasked with that this week, and I'm excited about it. What leaves me feeling a little uncertain is sometimes it's hard to know when you're taking things online how people are responding. Like right now, all of you are watching, I'm talking to my computer screen, and I'm so used to just like, oh my gosh, come give me a hug, and do you love it? Oh, you're so excited, I know. But now I'm like, are they listening? Do they hate me? Do they there's other thoughts that go through your mind. Last week, one of our beauty brands decided that they wanted to go ahead and launch their festival collection because what were they going to do with it sitting in the warehouse? And they were just like, screw it, let's go and let's throw an online rave and let's see how this works out. And they had a couple of well-known makeup artists come on that were influencers and do tutorials, 2 totally different types of looks, 2 totally different girls. And it was really fun. I mean, they ended up having 70,000 viewers. Some people offered opinions that weren't so nice. Most of them offered opinions that were wonderful, but you can't get stuck on it and you just have to try. Lastly, to your question about, pivoting on the celebrations, we've seen people doing balloon installations and drop-offs and things like that. I think that's great. I think whatever people need to do, as long as they just don't slip out of that comfort zone and still remember that we need to stay at home and be mindful, even if it's celebrations, we still got to keep our distance and be careful with whatever way we choose to celebrate. So I think that for now, watching a lot of those online live streaming programs, it's been really impressive to see. I think people are getting very, very creative. They're able to brand and put their logos out there. They're able to ask questions with people that you normally wouldn't converse with. And I like that there's a lot of dialogue. And if anything else, I think that's one of the most powerful things that we can take away from this is things like this that you're doing to help everybody else as well.
And a lot of the other collaborations, like the lives, you really get to see an authentic part of a person that you may
Yes.
admire. Like, oh my gosh, I totally love them even more.
They're not rehearsed, and you can see
exactly.
Like, oh my gosh, the computer froze for them too. Like all of a sudden, people are so much more relatable because it's real time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw someone like they went live and then they showed their setup, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought I was just like rigging this whole thing too.
It definitely makes things feel better for sure. I think, and it gives people an opportunity to captivate an audience that you wouldn't normally have, because the timing, people are a lot more available. I actually feel like they're far more within your reach now than they ever were.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned about innovating and doing things differently and how it's going to change in the future is actually really exciting if we, lean into it. And, it is going to change a lot of things. So that's, again, part of your approach of being so open and honest and sharing what you're learning is just so appreciated because learning from each other, that's the way that we're going to grow. And, we hope that inspires everybody to, share as well so that we can, bring wonderful experiences to all the clients. So,
well, I have to say too, Iris and Patty, one of the things that I can tell you, just not because I'm on the interview, but for all of the listeners, for whoever's watching this, you have it together. And that's one of the biggest things that you do have to have. It's okay to act bigger than you are. It's okay to present yourself. Spend some money on that branding if you can. Do those things. Don't commit yourself to things you can't commit to, but it's okay to always act bigger than you are. And the only reason I bring that up is all of your emails, everything is so well written, everything is so well thought out. So it made me excited because you gave me the success to be prepared. Hey, Lori, here's questions that we're going to ask you, things to think about. This is why we're doing this. Here's the link to click it. The easier that you make things for the person on the other side that you want to speak to, the more willing they're going to be able to do it. And especially right now, people have a little more time. But when things get back to normal and everyone's playing catch up, which is going to happen, because on the back end, my team is scrambling right now, moving our weddings and doing all the paperwork and getting all the contracts and the things that people don't see for every single one of our weddings that's moved. And we've had to move over 40. What happens is people are going to be busy and they're not going to want to take the time unless you are like, here's my 2-minute pitch. Here's what I've got. I'm handing it to you, click, go, it's easy. And then it's really hard for them to turn it down because a lot of times it's not that they don't want to do it. It goes back to not having the time. So I just have to say that the way that you presented things to me made me excited and also made me feel like you were setting me up for success. And that's important for all of us to do when we're reaching out to somebody else.
Those are, that's really, really great advice. Like you're going to have a collaboration. You definitely want to get you know, success out of it, but you want to also set your partners up and your collaborators up for success as well.
And they're
That's
going
key
to
advice.
ask you, like they're going to ask you straight out. Most people that are good at it, what's in it for me? So be prepared to give them the answer, you know, and it's going to be this, it's going to be 2 sponsored posts, it's going to be this, it requires this. Be very straight out from the beginning, and then the commitment is there, and then you know it's a yes or no. So I think that will set you up for success every single time.
I think that actually answers the question that we were going to ask you before we actually go to the ending of our call. Is really kind of like the tips and the advice that you have for people who are actually looking to collaborate for the first time. So that was really great.
And the final thing to close that out for anybody, you know, it's really intimidating, and I'll go back to asking questions. It's all right to ask questions, even if it's to somebody on Instagram that you follow. You know, for me, one of the things that I told Patty and Iris is that I get overwhelmed on DMs. So if there's someone that you want to talk to, find another way to talk to them. Go find their email, call them, send them a written letter. Like, figure out a way where if you want to be taken seriously, they're going to take you seriously. Because writing someone a DM, I get people asking me for jobs all the time, and I will not hire someone from my DMs, because to me that shows me that I'm not important enough for them to take the time to email me a resume. So just think about your approach in how you want them to see it and what makes you different than those other 50 DMs that they're getting offering them something else. When there are people out there that have spent 3 months putting a deck together, putting a PowerPoint together, and really have their pitch in line, you need to be polished and on top of it, and just do what works for you. It doesn't have to be what's good for those other people or what you've seen. Just do the best you can do and know you went into it with the best attitude and putting your best foot forward.
That's such great advice. I mean, we've, you know, we're blessed that you wanted to, you liked our stuff and you were good with partnering with us, and, you know, it's great. We'll do more of the stuff that works. But then, you know, you're right though. There's times when we might have sent a DM and then we're like, oh, you know, get a little bit discouraged, but, you know, there's so much more beyond that. You know, there's not only how busy that person is, but how does that come across, you know, and how do we follow up? And do we really pitch with the person in mind in terms of the 3 things that they're going to get out of this, and just really tighten up our game so that we make it easy for someone to say yes. We're able to just come across with that professionalism, but also just, again, you know, thinking through what's important to them, and so that it's win-win. It's so good. What about, and just in general, and, you know, kind of as we're starting to close out this, we've had so much time together. It's been so much fun. Just anybody that's, you know, in the event industry getting started, you know, I know there's a lot of folks that have, you know, been around for a while, and then there's some folks that this is their dream and their aspiration is to, you know, be you one day, or any of our other folks that are listening that have been around for a while. You know, just some thoughts for folks that are just getting started, or even just some, you know, encouraging words for your event partners that are out there listening.
Sure. I think there's a couple different parts of that. For people that are just getting started, I think it's important that you align yourself and look at the things that you're learning from, because it can be so overwhelming in a digital age, right? So I'm older, and so there wasn't always an Instagram for me, you know. There was a lot of touching and feeling and getting out there to see things and going to meet people. And I'm going to just touch on something really quickly, going back to the whole click situation. The reason that I bring that up, I'll make the story as short as I can, but to kind of share some inspiration or guidance with you. And even though it doesn't necessarily answer the question immediately, you'll understand why I'm telling you. A few years ago, when I decided to quit my full-time job to do this, I didn't know how to do weddings, but I knew how to do all the events and the lighting and, you know, all the other great things. And so when one of our clients wanted us to do their wedding, I brought on wedding planners that were obviously better than me. And we had a trade. They taught me how to run weddings start to finish. 4 girls worked this wedding with me, and I taught them events, parties, celebrity stuff. I mean, literally just every part of it. And it wasn't because they wanted to be me or I wanted to be them, but I had to learn if I was going to be able to do it. And then I could also know what I definitely don't like to do. So when you're starting out, if there's things that you don't like to do, you have to do them because you're starting. But as you grow, find somebody and align yourself with someone that likes to do the things that you don't, so that you can focus on the things that you're good at. there was a company that did some type of PR for a lot of people, and I would see it online. I was like, wow, the backdrops are so pretty and everybody looks so great and they're all so happy and Instagram led, and I want to go see that. So I had an opportunity to go to one of these mixers with somebody that was invited as an editor for a magazine. That same night, we did a charity event for one of our photo booth companies we donated, and it was for Karuchi and it was for Smile Train for a charity. And my head was so stuck up my butt, focused on worrying about what all these girls were doing and why Instagram looked so pretty and what they were doing over there, that I went there and I was so disappointed to find out that people were not as welcoming, because there was no reason, because it was a mixer. So they were all there not to grow within the industry, but more like from a competitive standpoint, which it happens too, right? So you need to know what you're going to and what you're getting yourself into. Well, I left there crying. I was really sad. Even now, I remember how terrible I felt, and I felt so discouraged. And I called my husband. I was heading over there where he was as the charity ended, and Karuchi waited for me. And she waited and thanked me and said, can we take a picture in the photo booth, which I posted, which was one of my first really, really popular posts. It was so genuine. And because of her is how I ended up meeting Pretty Little Thing. And I did something good and did something for charity and did something with good intentions. I could have backtracked and gotten caught up in the wrong thing that wasn't even important to me from the beginning if I didn't get away from that and veer back towards what made me feel good, which was doing things for other people. And then an opportunity presented itself because she took the time to get to know me, and then was like, oh, you're a party planner, and then, hey, this company needs this. And everything just kind of fell together for me ever since that moment. And I had to make a decision in which, whether you're new at this or whether you've been in it for a few years and you're still finding your way, you can't get caught up in what everyone is doing. And if following them doesn't make you feel good, unfollow them, stop following them, find something else, but align yourself where you're learning something, or it makes you smile, or it makes you feel good. And don't worry about what anyone is doing, because there is enough work out there to go around. There is going to be so much work when this is over. It might look a little bit different, but it's going to come back. People are going to spend money. People are going to celebrate. They're going to get married. They're going to celebrate their baby's first birthdays. They're going to love these baby showers and styled shoots. But you have to keep your focus and only worry about what is important to you. And the moment that you start worrying about what other people are doing or what they're collaborating on, it will take away all that positive energy. And so I think that just aligns with whatever and wherever you're at in your business. And I think that's why we've been okay, because I don't go and listen to gossip. I don't go out and hear people talk about each other that do what I do. I don't want any part of that. And that's what works for me.
I think that's
totally awesome.
Really great advice, because it is so easy to get caught up in the comparison game and then worry about whether that's, clicks or, other feedback that is not going to serve you in any way. So,
and most people in what you're creating with your network, from what I've seen, as far as how to, place somebody with a party planner or a vendor, they're going to work with you because they like you to your core. Most of them, unless you're running some massive company. People hire us because they like us. They like the way we make them feel. They like the way that Herrick, yes, he's a good DJ, but he also pays attention and listens. They like that Maya is attentive. It's about you, and they're much more willing to be forgiving or understanding if there's that solid relationship there, versus coming in not giving them an opportunity to know you as a business owner.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very important.
Excellent. All right.
Wow, that was like a master class, right?
I know.
Educational, motivational.
Can you tell I'm nervous?
No, not at all. You're doing awesome. Well, any last thoughts, Iris, before we close out? I know there's lots of high fives going on in the chat and lots of encouragement for sure. I think you're really connecting with folks. So
I think there's enough out there. You guys can do it, and you're more than welcome to reach out to me if you have questions and you don't want to ask them publicly. You want to email me. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll be sure to follow up. I've got the time, and I will be happy to either schedule a call or talk to you one-on-one and further dive into any important questions that you might have.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, all your wisdom.
Yes, and we'll talk to you soon. Yes.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.